Test. Good morning, distinguished participants, colleagues, and partners. Welcome to the Asian Development Bank headquarters. Our program will begin promptly at 9 a.m. Test. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We will begin shortly in about 2 minutes. Kindly take your seats and ensure that registration has been completed. Thank you.
Hello.
Test. Mic. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. May we kindly request everyone to take their seats as we are about to begin our program. On behalf of the Asian Development Bank, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2026 PEFA Flagship Training Opening Session. My name is Jericho Perez, and I am from the Financial Management Division of the Asian Development Bank. It is my pleasure to serve you as your host for today's session. We are honored to have participants from across the globe, together with our esteemed PEFA partners, the World Bank, the IMF, and the European Commission. This session will set the stage by providing an overview of the PEFA framework and the current state of the public financial management globally. To formally open our program, it is my honor to invite our Vice President. Please join me in welcoming Ms. HKU, Vice President for Administration and Corporate Management at the Asian Development Bank.
Thank you. Good morning to you all. How is Manila treating you? Yeah, that's good. On behalf of the Asian Development Bank, let me extend a warm welcome to all of you. It is indeed a great pleasure to have so many of you attending this very important training. I would particularly like to acknowledge the presence of representatives from the Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability Secretariat and partners. I don't think anybody says that long name, right? We know that as PEFA, fondly known as PEFA. I'm actually delighted that ADB is hosting this year's PEFA flagship training in Manila for 3 reasons. The first reason is that This is ADB's first year of partnership with PEFA. So really, what better way to demonstrate our value as a new partner to PEFA than to host PEFA's flagship training at our very headquarters. So really, really excited that this training is being held here at our beautiful headquarters building of ADB. The second reason that I'm excited and delighted about this is that I too, as probably like many of you, worked as an Australian Treasury Officer for 14 years before I joined the bank. So that was from 2002 to 2016. And so like many of you, I deeply understand the importance of public financial management systems. Robust institutions and strong public financial management systems can help governments navigate even the greatest challenges, because it helps us to optimize use of limited resources. Yes, it's not a bottomless bucket of money, is it? Often we are all struggling with very limited funds and resources. But we have to use that to deliver essential goods and services to the government, to the country's citizens, often to the most vulnerable and disadvantaged in our communities. And even when the world doesn't quite pan out the way the governments had planned or budgeted for, agile and adaptive public financial management systems help governments deal with shocks and disruptions while ensuring long-term sustainability of our public finances, right? That's very, very important. So no wonder, covering such an important topic as this, no wonder I was delighted that this training is happening right here at ADB. The final reason why I'm delighted this training is being held in the Asia and Pacific region is because this region has the greatest development potential, but also faces some of the biggest and most complex challenges. And I'm sure many of my colleagues here in the room from Asia and the Pacific region, you know what I'm talking about here, right? So let me quickly paint you a picture of Asia and the Pacific. Asia and the Pacific is home to 60% of the global population, making it a main growth engine for the whole global economy. Yet more than 260 million people still live in poverty, extreme poverty, in fact. And income inequality continues to widen. The region also faces a number of other challenges, but let me point to three in particular. The first one is climate impacts. More nodding of the heads. Asia and the Pacific is the most disaster-prone region in the world. It accounts for nearly half of all global natural disasters, and 3/4 of all people affected by them are right here in this region. And the direct economic cost of damage caused by natural disasters is estimated at, this actually astounded me, $550 million to $990 million per day. Just think about that, per day. But you can quickly understand when you look around and the disasters, typhoons, floods, things that are happening around us, how that is probably quite plausible. The second challenge facing Asia and the Pacific is gender inequality. Yes, there have been some advances made on this very important issue. But the fact is, gaps still persist, especially in health, employment, access to finance, and in both public and private sector leadership roles. Having said that, I'm delighted to see a number of women in the audience today, and that is a very good demonstration that our efforts are working, but we still have a long way to go. And in many countries across Asia and the Pacific, the proportion of women experiencing domestic violence is substantially higher than the global average of what I consider to be pretty high already, 27%. So like I said, still a lot that needs to be done in this space as well. And the third challenge I wanted to mention today is corruption. Like everywhere else in the world, corruption affects everyone in Asia and the Pacific, especially those living in poverty. It hits them hardest. And once again, the cost of corruption to the global economy is massive. Did you know it's estimated at $3.6 trillion annually? Imagine if we can drive out corruption, what we can achieve with those resources. Now, I'm sure you will agree, having heard these challenges, right, that, wow, these are tough and complex challenges for the region to deal with. But sadly, I wish that's all the region had to deal with. But recently, because of geopolitical tensions, these are causing major disruptions to the region as well, in terms of its supply chain, trade, travel, tourism, and jobs. And so what do we have? We have many economies in our region that are hurting quite a bit. So against this backdrop, you can see why efficient, effective, and accountable public financial management systems have never been more important right now in Asia and the Pacific. Learning about PEFA assessments that benchmark public financial management systems, that build consensus for reform plans, that track progress over time, is a very concrete, tangible way that Asia and the Pacific can build strong systems capable of navigating through its many challenges. To this extent, I've been told the new gender and climate supplementary modules is going to be enormously valuable, and it's certainly very well timed for our discussions today. And if we get the public financial management systems right in Asia and the Pacific, just think about the potential return on that investment. And you know that investment, the return on investment, it's not going to be just for the region. Given the role Asia and the Pacific plays in the world, there's going to be return for the whole global economy. This is why ADB greatly appreciates the dedication of our partners on this very important matter, namely the World Bank, IMF, European Commission, and the governments of France, Luxembourg, Norway, Slovak Republic, and Switzerland. And this is also why ADB is proud to have joined this global partnership. And I'm certainly delighted that we could create this opportunity where you can share your experiences and challenges in strengthening public financial management systems in Asia and the Pacific. And hopefully through this, form a long-lasting network of support and collaboration. Because us public financial management Warriors, we need each other's support. We need each other's experiences. We need to learn from one another. So with that, I wish you all the best and a fruitful learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Yu, for your inspiring and forward-looking remarks. We will now proceed to special remarks from our distinguished PEFA partners. May I now invite Mr. Serdar Yilmaz, Global Practice Manager at the World Bank.
Good morning, colleagues. Welcome to this important event. Before I start my remarks, I want to acknowledge the great hospitality that we have from our colleagues in the Asian Development Bank. I've been eating all day long yesterday, and the Asian hospitality, it feeds you and you gain weight. And I'm afraid I'll be fasting when I go back home for a couple of months at least. So thank you for great hospitality. And we are very happy to have Asian Development Bank in the PEFA community. PEFA is a truly multilateral effort. As Madam HQU mentioned, we have all the important players in our steering committee, and it's truly managed all together. And in fact, this week on Thursday and Friday, we will be having our biennial steering committee meeting to discuss issues and give directions to PEFA Secretariat. Even though PEFA Secretariat sits in the World Bank and reports to me, but it's been managed by the steering committee and guided by the steering committee. And we have strong leadership from all of the institutions or partners listed by Vice President HQU. And this year, it's particularly important for PEFA because PEFA now is an adult. It's 25 years old, and we are going to celebrate PEFA's birthday during this week as well. So hopefully you'll be joining for cake cutting and more eating. One of the things that I want to mention actually, as Vice President HQU mentioned, all the great things that PEFA is supposed to be doing. And in fact, we have launched a new research program, and we are trying to substantiate those arguments. And I want to particularly mention 4 of the papers, the research papers, and their findings are quite interesting. The first one looks at the linkage between quality of PFM systems and stock market volatility. And it establishes the linkage between importance, the strengthening of fiscal governance and stock market. And the stronger the fiscal governance systems, the better that countries mitigate financial risk. Similar to this paper, another paper using machine learning techniques establishes the linkage between early warning of fiscal crisis using PEFA data. So the countries with stronger PFM systems have a better chance of facing fiscal crisis. And the countries with less strong fiscal governance systems are rather in difficult situation. Another paper looks at outcomes at the sectoral level, and establishes that especially the budget credibility, the first three indicators are important to see the linkage between budget systems and service delivery outcomes in health and education sectors. And the last one looks at the relationship between the theoretical relationship between PEFA pillars and fiscal discipline, as well as strategic fiscal allocations, and establishes that linkage between the pillars and the outcomes in fiscal discipline, namely primary balance and overall balance, as well as strategic fiscal allocation measured by a budget volatility index. All of these things to say that PEFA assessment itself, as I mentioned, I always make an analogy. PEFA is a great X-ray. It gives you, when we feel sick, we go to a doctor and doctor sends us to an X-ray or MRI. It gives you the picture of what's happening inside the body so that you can take the medication to get well. I think PEFA is that X-ray. But the next step is always taking the medication. So PEFA assessment shouldn't be ending at the end of the assessment. It should be an input to reforms in the next stage. Therefore, the quality of the assessment becomes really important. So that's what I think we are going to do this week here, to improve the quality of assessment so that the outcome will be more impactful. With that, I wish you great learning experience, and please feel free to ask a lot of questions. This should be a dialogue, not necessarily a monologue, and I'm sure my colleagues will answer all the questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz, for your valuable insights. Our next speaker, Mr. Eric Deschenmaker from the European Commission. Please join me in welcoming him.
Good morning, everyone, both of you here in the room and those following us online. It's a real pleasure for me to be part of this opening session, and I want to begin by warmly congratulating the PEFA Secretariat and the Asian Development Bank for organizing this flagship training and hosting the event this week, including our steering committee. As you rightly said, the ADB joined the PEFA initiative just last December, and I think this training is already a very concrete illustration of what that membership means in practice, bringing PEFA closer to government and practitioners across the Asia-Pacific region. Again, a warm welcome to the PEFA family, and thank you for this initiative. Let me start with a question that might seem obvious, but I think worth asking. Why does it matter that government and donors speak a common language on public financial management? The answer, I think, lies in what happens when they don't. When each donor arrives in a country with its own diagnostic tool, its own assessment timeline, its own fiduciary checklist, and then the burden always falls on one party, the Ministry of Finance, which often has already a small and overstretched team fielding missions after mission, asking essentially the same questions in different formats. And this is not hypothetical. It's precisely the situation that gave birth to PEFA 25 years ago. A principal secretary of finance in an African country facing yet another round of overlapping donor assessment asked a simple question at a donors meeting. Can we please have only one assessment? And the request, reasonable, dignified, and slightly exasperated, is the origin story of what has become today the global standard for PFM diagnostic. Today, PEFA assessments have been concluded in more than 150 countries. Governments use them to design reform strategies. Donors use them to assess fiduciary risk or structure budget support operation. And as Serdar just mentioned, researchers use them to analyze what drives PFM performance across various income levels, institutional tradition, and political context. And increasingly, as you will discover or deepen over the coming days, they are used to track progress over time. The European Commission has been a founding member of the PEFA from the very beginning. And for the EC, PEFA is not simply one tool among many. It's the backbone on how we engage with partner governments on PFM reforms. Our budget support programs and now our investments in the Global Gateway strategy are grounded in an assessment of PFM systems. But our approach goes beyond eligibility for these instruments. What we try to do and what we encourage our EU delegation across the world and partners to do is to ensure that PEFA findings are genuinely integrated into reform planning and monitoring. So not treated as one-off diagnostic exercise, but a baseline against which progress can be tracked. And at the end of the day, ultimately, to make sure that public policies are working and are impactful. And this brings me to an example that I want to share with you, the one of Lao PDR. The European Union and Australia are jointly co-financing a multi-donor trust fund on PFM implemented by the World Bank. Under this program, a PEFA assessment was conducted in 2023 and published last year. What happens next is what matters. The government of Laos is now actively integrating the findings of the PEFA into the country next PFM strategy. The strategy is also aligned with the 10th National Socio-Economic Development Plan approved last April. So you see the PEFA is therefore feeding directly into the country highest level development planning. And I want to highlight one lesson from this experience that I think is directly relevant to our work as practitioners. An adequate results framework should be set up early to allow credible tracking of performance and changes over time. This sounds straightforward, but in practice, it really requires deliberate efforts, and it requires starting that conversation very early, prior to the design of a concept note, and not after the assessment report has been published. For those of you who are here to deepen your knowledge of the PEFA framework over the coming days, whether you are government officials, development bank staffs, consultants, or assessors, I want to close with one thought. PEFA is sometimes described as a technical tool, and it is, rigorously so. But its real value is relational. It creates a shared evidence-based, a common reference point around which governments and donors can have honest, informed conversation about what is working in a country PFM system, what is not, and what should change. That conversation, when it happens well, is what drives and promotes reforms. Your job and our job after this training is to make sure that that conversation happens better, more rigorously, more honestly, and more usefully in the countries where we work. So I wish you a productive and stimulating few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deshkunmaker, for your remarks. We now invite Mr. Benoit Bieli, Task Team Leader for Governance and Public Financial Management at Agence Française de Développement, or AFD.
So good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today. Let me start as well, like my colleagues, by thanking ADB for its warm welcome in Manila. We are grateful to have you as a new member of this new multi-donor initiative that is PEFA. I'm sure that this will strengthen even further our strong already partnership between IFG, but ADB and all the donors within PEFA. So thank you for giving me the floor this morning. I will keep it short since a lot have been said already. As you may know, since 2001, France has been a strong supporter of PEFA, which is now recognized as the global standard for assessing PFM systems. France's support to PEFA is twofold. First, we support the PEFA Secretariat itself and serve on its steering committee like this week alongside our now 8 other valued partners. And second, we directly fund PEFA assessments as well as post-PEFA PFM strategies and action plans. On this second aspect, I would like to highlight that IFG, the French Development Agency, has a dedicated technical assistance facility for PEFA assessment, providing hands-on support and access to French expertise. So to this facility, and with the support of our subsidiary Expertise France, we are currently engaged in several PEFA assessments, either underway or recently achieved globally. Each one of them are co-financed with fellow steering committee members. And I would like to flag here that these partnerships are very important for us. And it helps to have a policy dialogue jointly in the countries. And as a result, this PEFA engagement allows us to take a full end-to-end role, as our previous panelists mentioned, from supporting PEFA assessment to supporting the design of PFM reform strategies and action plans, and then providing tailored PFM support or project or financing that result from it. So to achieve this multi-phase approach, flagship trainings like today are key because first, they expand the number of PEFA experts, meaning you, who are essential to conduct any PEFA assessment. And also, and it has been mentioned, it's essential because flagship trainings fortify partnerships and coordination among PFM practitioners and experts. And this is also at the very heart of what we do. And in this regard, I'm confident that this week flagship training and steering committee will add to this fundamental dynamic. So I will stop here and wish you a productive training session and an excellent PEFA week in Manila. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bialy. We now move to our plenary presentation. Public Financial Management, the Past, the Present, and the Future. This session will be delivered by the PEFA Secretariat, providing valuable perspectives on the evolution and future direction of public financial management. As we go through this session, we also encourage participants, especially those joining us online, to share your questions in the chat box at any time. We will take this up during the question and answer segment. It is my pleasure to invite Mr. Srinivas Gurazada, Head of the PEFA Secretariat.
Magandang umaga. Kumusta po? Good morning, Manila. Good morning, Philippines. Good morning, Asia. And good morning, the PEFA world. all in the room and all those connected virtually online to this plenary session, the inaugural session of the PEFA week and the PEFA flagship training. Vice President HKU, Sardar, Eric, Benoit, and all of you, I can't express how thrilled I am today, along with the PEFA team, to be here for this big PEFA week. This is one of the biggest in the recent years. And thank you so much to Asian Development Bank, to Aman, Maria, Navedu, Julieta, Anjum, and the entire ADB team who have been working for 5 to 6 months on a weekly basis to review the progress and get us to what we are starting today, the PEFA flagship training. So in this session, what I'm going to do is to take you through few slides, the big picture about the PEFA initiative, so which will seamlessly take us into the PEFA flagship training, which will be in 2 separate rooms after this plenary session. So let me start off with a question. There is a country. This country, a hypothetical country. You can give it any name. It can be Wakanda, it can be Mahishmati, it can be whatever you want to call it, right? This country scored a C on PEFA framework. It did not get a PEFA check. It means countries' PFM systems are poor when compared to international best practices, and the country quickly needs to A grade. Is that true or false? True? How many for true? Anyone for true? Anyone for false? False, false, false. I can see a lot of false, right? So that's the theme of the initial presentation. It's false. It's false to say that C is not comparable to international best practices. First, because PEFA doesn't measure against international best practices. It is international good practices. Second, PEFA C is basic level of compliance with international good practices, which practically means PEFA C doesn't mean it's bad. It just simply means there is more scope for improvement. 3, a low score on PEFA doesn't automatically mean on each aspect of PFM that you need to improve upon. And last and most important, does a country get a PEFA score? No. Countries do not have a PEFA score. Only indicators and dimensions have a PEFA score, and the framework is not structured to measure at a country level. It is to measure at an individual PFM aspect level. With that, let me run through a few slides with you. PEFA, as you all know, Public Expenditure and Financial Accountability. Way back in 2001, Eric mentioned this incident where every partner, every government started looking at, can we have a common measurement tool? And that's what we have today in the form of PEFA, with all the 9 PEFA partners supporting it. It's a standard methodology for assessing public financial management system. So now let's look at how does this work in actual practice? So the key points to note here are, it is an evidence-based analysis. What does that mean? This section of the room conducts an assessment. Later, this section of the room goes and conducts the same assessment. The results should be the same. It's not the subjectivity and analysis of individual author of the report, but what is important is the evidence leading to a common report. And it deals with the 3 budgetary outcomes. What are 3 budgetary outcomes? Aggregate fiscal discipline. What does that simply mean? Government should not spend more than what they have. They should collect well and spend well. Strategic allocation. Simply allot as per the requirements in a strategic way. And efficient service delivery. The goal of PFM being improved service delivery. 3 budgetary outcomes. And PEFA is something which is not assessing government policies. It is doing two things. One, it is assessing the ability of PFM systems in implementing government policies through the PFM systems. And two, it informs the policies, better policy making through good information decisions from the PEFA assessment as such. So that's the PEFA framework. As you know, like right now, it's present in 156 countries at national and subnational levels. Then we have the framework. When we say framework, this is framework. What you see on screen is framework. The framework, the national framework, subnational PEFA, and agile PEFA. All these three are one. Subnational is not a separate framework. It is a modification of national framework for subnational requirements because subnational have some specificities. And agile is for small island nations and agencies, the countries which they want to conduct quick repeat assessments for small countries. Then you have supplementary frameworks, climate and gender. As PFM evolved, there is greater demand on responsiveness of PFM systems from gender perspective, from climate perspective. Are PFM systems responsive to climate and gender? And that's where you have these frameworks. Now, this book, the national framework and the subnational, climate, gender, each of them we are going to complete by day after tomorrow, 12 noon. That's our goal. Complete the whole boutique. You may find this book to be, okay, very big. Wait for it. The other books are bigger. They are also going to come into your bags tomorrow morning, and all this will finish. So it will be a super technical, heavy technical training. We'll do our best to make it interesting and interactive to get us to the core points. Now, some big numbers. 3 budgetary outcomes, the highest level outcomes, that is about the fiscal discipline, allocation, efficiency, and service delivery. But PFM is not measured at that level. PFM is always measured from below, bottom up. What is the lowest? It's the dimension. This book has 94 dimensions. These are the points at which PFM is actually measured. Each of the dimension gets accumulated or aggregated into what we call as indicators. So PEFA indicators are 31, and you get scores, measurement scores at these 31 indicators and the 94 dimensions. So what you don't get is a score at a pillar level or at an outcome level. You don't have such scores, or at a country level. So PEFA is not structured for that, but it is structured at dimension level. Now, these are the 7 pillars. We'll go through all these pillars. You can see PFM in 2 ways. You can say budget. PFM is what? It's about budget, right? Budget preparation, budget execution, budget evaluation. This can be a way of looking at. Another way of looking at is through these pillars, the 7 pillars of PEFA. Principally, PEFA is structured in a way to say budget reliability is the overall goal. Having a good budget, which is reliable budget, is the overall goal. That's what this chart depicts. It is one way of looking at PFM. It need not be the only way. It is, you can say, the PEFA way of looking at that the overall goal is budget reliability, and other pillars are contributing to this budget reliability. At the same time, if you score well on budget reliability, doesn't necessarily automatically mean all other pillars are doing well. So in substance, PEFA promotes the principle that each of the pillars are important, each of the dimensions are important, and country ownership and prioritization should determine progress on various indicators. Scoring. Why did I say C is not bad? C is not bad because it means it is basic level compliance with international good practices. Keyword here, it is international good practices, not best practices. An A does not mean this is the ultimate in PFM and you can't do better. Yes, it's like in a progress report in the school, 100 out of 100 is the max score you can get, but still the student can do even better. Taking the analogy, A essentially means it is high level of compliance, but there's nothing called best practices. PEFA doesn't necessarily believe in best practices because of subjectivity which gets involved in the country specificity. So some will ask me saying like, will PEFA be suitable for my country? It has specific unique requirements, specific constitution. Yes, PEFA is framed in a way which is suitable to every country. So if there is something which is unique, which is not applicable across the board to countries, probably that's not part of PEFA already. So it contains things which are consistent across all countries. So we'll go into the indicators and dimensions, and there's something called a PEFA check, a quality check credential. It's an optional credential which checks not how good the PFM system in a country is. It checks how good the report is consistent with the PEFA framework. So this is a kind of an optional certification or quality credential issued where 85% plus compliance with the framework is received, and that's something which is issued by the PEFA Secretariat. We'll talk more about it in the sessions to come. We have then the PEFA agenda, which has specific indicators, and the PEFA climate, which we would be covering with specific indicators tomorrow. And with that, let me come to quickly the current status of PEFA. PFM, few highlights. If you look at 156 countries, if you look at like all the 800 plus reports, what does the picture say? The picture is overall positive. If we see 25 years of progress, PFM systems have improved. Efforts of governments have yielded results. That's what is documented in what we call PFM tracker, which is available in the PEFA website right now. Let me highlight a few things. Budget reliability or credibility. Are budgets credible? The answer is on an aggregate level, total budget level, government seems to be doing well on budget credibility. But the problem comes on composition. Is it distributed well across ministries? Overall, governments comply with the total goals of what they planned and what they executed. But do they comply with at ministry level? Do they comply with that expenditure, economic expenditure type level? Like, are salaries the same? Is debt the same? Is travel expenditure the same? Planned and actual. That's where one area where many countries seems to have serious problems still. At an aggregate level, yes, but at composition level, not so great, is what one of the pictures which comes up. Fiscal transparency, this has improved over time. Budget documentation has been very robust. If you see the PEFA, what's a good budget document is something which in the reports, you will see that countries are doing very well. But then the problem is there is fiscal data, but it's not fully transparently available to public, right? So that's one area in the global tracker we notice gaps. So there is data, but within the government, it's not necessarily always available to public. Assets and liabilities, government balance sheets. Assets and liabilities are important for government balance sheets. How are governments doing generally? This is one of the weak areas. Public investment management still struggles in many countries. Long-term capital costs, for example, life cycle costs are not considered in the decision making on capital investments still in many countries. But there is good news. Debt management processes have improved significantly and substantially in the last 10 years. So does good debt management process mean low risk of debt sustainability? Not necessarily. Debt management process means the ability of government to manage debt, but the decision making of government is government's. So you can have a good process and still engage more debt, right? So the debt problem still exists, but the debt management processes are something which significantly improved. The pillar number 4 on budget planning and medium-term perspective. So there's one of the fundamental problems across PFM systems one sees. There are a lot of things on paper they improved. There are medium-term expenditure frameworks. There are kind of a documented processes which are good practices. But the problem is there are national plans, there are sector plans, there are medium-term expenditure frameworks, and then the budgets. Many cases, they don't talk to each other. This is something coming through the data. Is there improvement? There is significant improvement. A lot of process improvements, but still there are areas which seems to be struggling. Budget execution means both revenue and expenditure. How are countries doing on budget execution? This is where the more detailed issues come up. There are issues like commitment controls being a problem in many countries, or expenditure arrears accumulating as a challenge, like unpaid bills, revenues not collected in time. Public procurement through non-competitive methods is still taking place. These issues come up still in many countries, which meant these need to be like, overall, while there is progress, there are fundamental issues going around on budget execution. Accounting and reporting, generally, stronger progress has taken place. Although the timing of reports, if you see, they don't go to audit still on time in many countries. Audit is doing well, the audit cycle part of it. Supreme audit institutions have improved a lot, but the legislature taking decisions and actions is still a kind of a weakness. These are the things that we are going to, some of the highlights of what's coming up from the tracker. We go into greater details during the program. With that, let me conclude by this session by thanking once more and quickly making an introduction of who we are. The PEFA team here today in the room conducting to deliver the PEFA steering committee. Let me call upon to wave Victor. Victor is like 30 plus years expert in public financial management, and he is here with us. Thanks, Victor. Mona, our expert also very specifically into accounting and auditing space. Dimitri, with vast experience on PFM accounting and the related space. We have John Mark. I should specifically say, John Mark is 21st year with PEFA. He's working for 21 years on PEFA, if I'm not wrong, right? Yeah. And Nine, who helped us put all this together. Nine, back there. With that, thank you, everyone. We have, I think, 2-3 minutes for a quick question if anyone wants to make a comment question or if there is an online question. Anyone in the room? Else, thank you so much. We are super delighted once more. Thank you, everyone, and looking forward to a great PEFA flagship training. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gurazada, for that comprehensive and insightful presentation. In the interest of time, we will skip the, we already have performed or done the Q&A portion, and we'll now proceed with our photo opportunity. May we invite all participants to proceed to the designated area. It will be in our ADB courtyard just outside the auditorium. All ADB management, PEFA partners, secretariat, and all trainees are invited to please proceed now at the ADB courtyard.